Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. My rights continue to be violated, my life quality continues to be zero, moving on with our derivation. And so, yesterday we talked about, again, the historical and ontological progression of, again, individuals in the context of society, right? One individual learning Newton, Einstein, Archimedes, but really just a single individual attenuating or, again, progressing societal ontology with their own personal realizations and conceptualizations. And so, again, you can have proper intuition and then be saying all of the wrong words in the big attenuation or the big historical assignment of E equals mc squared. Einstein's personal intuition, that is a statement of momentum, mass times velocity. And so, but what does that mean on a direct empirical level, right? Because again, trying to emphasize historically, which might not be apparent to a lot of people, that energy wasn't really understood at any point in time. That's why Newton had potential energy and kinetic energy, because he did not understand energy, movement, potential. And so that was, again, Einstein comes after Newton, but Einstein cannot learn what energy is, again, highlighting the historical progression, not just the actual science, so to speak. But energy was never understood. Collisions in Newton times was not understood. We went through that explicitly, but on a direct empirical level, E equals mc squared at a low velocity or without the Lorentz factor is just what people say, again, is the rest energy. So this is where it doesn't make any sense, and this is where you have to understand that all things are moving, right? We have a bunch of discrete, really small things. Really small is still really small in comparison to really big. What is, how big is not known. How small is small? It's really small, but it's finite, it's definite, and it's completely contained. And so we know how small is. We've physically bounded the infinitesimal. So that's our Planck length. You get introduced to that pretty correctly in physical ontology. But if I say E equals mc squared, right, in my notebook, right, this has some mass. How much energy does it have, right? It's the mass times the speed of light squared. And then people will say, that is the energy, again, they keep saying energy, conserved or preserved or localized or contained within this notebook. Put it on a scale, it weighs, again, I don't know, 4 ounces, guessing. And then we just times it by the speed of light and say that is its energy. But, right, does this have movement potential? Conceptually, that is well defined all throughout history. What is energy, movement, potential? So does that equation make sense to, right, this has some large number, its mass times the speed of light. Speed of light's pretty fast. And so that's how much energy it has, right? Is that movement potential? So what is really going on? Right, really where we're at right now conceptually is the boundary of a system. What is a bond? Because again, proportionality scales. And so if we solve, what is the boundary of my notebook, we can solve what is the boundary of the universe. But in reality, again, that's not a meaningful question, but all physical property is preserved and it scales with size. Size is absolute, but we just don't have conceptualization to ask how big is big, and then how small is small, very small, but it's finite, it is definite. And then there's gaps between the independent discrete things, the charge that is in dynamic to produce mass. Charge is conserved, mass is preserved. But E equals mc squared, right, my notebook, right, it doesn't have movement potential in relation, right, they'll say it's the energy content contained by this matter, this mass. That is the energy within this system. And so in reality, what Einstein, again, didn't really have conceptualization of is, one, historically the progression of energy, and then two, energy is movement potential. Right, so does this notebook as a whole, as a unit, as a thing, have movement potential? Well, it's on my hand. If it's on my lap, again, it's not moving, right? But it is, right? So this is the big problem with this equation, or the understanding, right? This is a statement of momentum of the particles within this notebook. And so it's the mass, again, discrete little finite things all moving. It's one notebook. But then they say the energy content, the movement potential, no. It's the momentum of this system, quote unquote, at rest, right? The Lorentz factor, v squared over c squared, It's really, again, a misconceptualization of the internals and externals of a system, posing the correct ontological question with this extremely fundamental concept: what is energy? So E equals mc squared, as presented in physics, they'll say it is the rest energy, or the, again, conceptually movement potential. This is where, again, it's not taught because it's not known. And then if you went into Sean Carroll's office, you'd be like, oh, it's this, this, and this. And it's just like, it's not. Again, you have to respect my constitutional rights. I know what I'm doing in physics. Nobody else does, literally. So E equals mc squared is the momentum of the internal particles of a given object, right? And then the Lorentz factor is, again, the velocity in relation to something else. But this notebook is not moving in relation to me, or in relation to the camera, or in relation to the desk, but the independent atoms and then the different electrons are moving. And so it's the momentum, but of a localized system of containment. What people have called energy is internal momentum, all of the little particles and their velocities moving around. But then it stabilizes, and it's this stabilized dynamic. It is one notebook. And so that is really where we're at conceptually, is, again, this historical progression is what is energy, and then what is movement, right? Movement in relation to what, right? My notebook is not moving in relation to the other things, but the internal constituents, the small particles that are bonded together, are moving. And so that's just true. And again, that is the most empirical thing not understood in all of physical ontology development, is all of your measurements is in an environment where everything is dynamic, meaning everything is in motion, everything is moving. And so that is where we started. Again, just what E equals mc squared means: a statement of momentum, specifically of the internal, independent, discrete mass gap particles that create a coarse grain, an object. But again, all of the physical properties scale. And so, again, that is why you have internal temperature, is because of the mass gap, things vibrating, things moving. But we continue on with our derivation. Again, we're still not at the final resolution, but again, just emphasizing every single step as this progresses. We couldn't have gotten to speciality is special with an ITY unless we conceptually had the correct answer, the correct framework. And so we're just working through another, again, axiomatic derivation, which is as complete of a proof that could exist, showing it is. What is sensorality? What is a sensor? So we continue along a lot of steps. This will probably be a long one. Sensorality senses acceleration. Sensorality senses change. Logically, again, we have existence, we have things doing stuff, and then we have our entire logical structure, all of the words we've used to describe these physical processes. And so the operative word, what is acceleration, right? Acceleration is acceleration. How does it relate uniquely to the other words in ontology? The operative word it connects to is change. A change in velocity, meaning a change in direction or a change of speed. Sensorality is the sensation of acceleration. Natural definition, direct iteration, right? You're driving on a bumpy hill, a hilly hill, and you feel the sensation in your stomach going up and down. You're on a roller coaster, you feel this whoa sensation of your stomach going up and down. The sensation of acceleration. Sensorality is the sensation of falling, right? Why do we have this recurring dream of, again, at the society level of like, oh, I'm about to fall asleep, oh, and then I jerk awake because I was about to fall down, right? The sensation of acceleration, the sensation of falling. Sensorality is special sensation. Jen gave Brad a special sensation. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is essential sensation. Little tongue twister going on, as always. Sensorality is the sensation of motion. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is a peculiar sensation. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, a lot of linguistics, a lot of different specificity and generality, and we're getting the right linguistic structure, the common denominator, the common syllability to solve. Sensorality is, what is peculiarity to familiarity, right? Emphasizing the complete word liar. Is speciality peculiarity? What is peculiarity to particularity? Sensorality is culiarity, or coolarity, from particularity. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is motionality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is muscularity. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is sensation to promotion? Motion, promotion. What is commotion to promotion? What is commotion to commission? What is promotion to commission? What is motion to mission? Sensorality is the mission of motion. Natural definition, direct iteration. Change is variable. So I know I've pointed this out explicitly before, but there's this movie, 21, with Kevin Spacey, and another one of these scenes where it's the really smart kid, the Goodwill Hunting type character is going to beat the crowd and get the wow factor. And it's the scene where it's like the goat's behind this door. If you pick one door and then he switches it and he's like, variable change. That scene is directly immediately wrong, but change is variable. Sensorality is variability. Natural definition, direct iteration. Could be a logical mathematical fundamental theorem, but again, not overdoing it. And we're at this point where a ton of these things, all of this is direct iteration, and we're at the final reduction where it's just like everything's a big step, emphasizing the ones that feel most intuitive to me. Sensorality is variable resistance. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is resistance to resonance? Does resistance resonate? What doesn't resonate causes resistance. What is change to exchange? Right? Emotion, motion. We're just getting the right complete form. Sensorality is actionable. Sensorality is actionability. Natural definition, direct iteration. The context you typically hear this, or at least I've heard this forced out, again, is stock trading. It's like I need actionable insight, right? Actionability. Action is what you do, kind of like Nike. Just do it. Sensorality contains sensorality. Now remember, we directly expanded sensory to sensorality, sensorality to sensorality by this OD. But now we have this word do. OD, do. Again, emphasizing the syllability. Sensorality is odality. Just ality at the end of OD. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is power mode. Sensorality is odor mode. What is penning to opening? Emphasizing the two N's and the one N. What is somatic to semantic? Does inertia accelerate? Sensorality celebrates acceleration. Direct iteration. What is acceleration to destination? What is due to do to do? Like do the action, do a due date, do like the moisture on the ground. Do is moisture, natural definition, direct iteration. Moisture, posture, is posture positive. Sensorality is concentrated odor. Again, centrated, centralized, center is a direct iteration of sensor, our correct spelling with a C. Consolidation is concentration. Sensorality is concentrationality. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is charge to acceleration? Does charging accelerate? Acceleration is rapid. Again, conceptually, velocity carries this rapid movement. Momentum is rapid change. Acceleration, rapid. Natural definition, direct iteration. Rapid is quick. Quick is fast. What is quick to quality? Are quirks quick? Direct iteration. Consider the following. Jen gave Brad a not slowy. What is acceleration to appreciation? Sensorality is accelerating appreciation. Again, exponential growth. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is accumulation to aggregation? Is momentum monumental? Sensorality is monumentality. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is sentimental to monumental? What is the difference between mentality and orality? Again, that was our big linguistic kind of production. We had these N words, we had whole episodes about it. But what's the difference? And the big difference, thing we highlighted was, again, mentality and orality are unique to sentient life. We have this big difference between sensorality with a C and sensorality with an S. Overall, we're just building the context to have a definitive proof, a definition. But what is mentality to orality? What is mentality to morality? Is truth real? What is meant by mentality? Direct iteration, emphasizing, again, meant is it one sound, and then what do you mean? Words have meaning. I meant this. Emphasizing the spelling iteration. Is truth verifiable? What is falsifiability to verifiability? Falsifiability, the ability to be false. Verifiability, the ability to be verified. It's the same thing, but it's like proving or saying one thing is false is falsifiability, and then verifying is saying something is true or correct or accurate. Worth pointing out. Because again, these results are independent of me. We just have to get the concepts in the right order. Sensorality is verifiability. Sensorality is the ability to verify. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is certification to verification? Is certification certain? Is reality certified? What is society to sociality? Is sociality special? Sensorality is sociality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Society senses sociality. Society censors socialization. What is socialization to sensation? So that was a big intuitive step here of, again, all languages articulated by sentient individuals. And so, but again, there's one sentiment of a group, there's one consensus. And so society is still like an individual in the same way you have business entities as one thing. Society is one consensus. So society censors is a direct iteration. Or at least emphasizing, that's my intuition. What is socialization to sensation? Sensorality limits socialization. Censorship limits socialization. What is socialization to specialization? What is socialization to segregation? Is censorship segregation? Sensorality is segmentation. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is a segment to a section? Sensorality is the sex section. Natural definition, direct iteration, emphasizing the phonetic progression. Have fun with the conceptualization. Segmentation is division. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is division discretionary? What is discretion to consent? What is discretion to moderation? Is mode moderate? Direct iteration. What is equilibrium to moderation? Equilibrium is dynamic, balance equilibrates. That was another big thing from, again, this, because I can feel like the conceptual progression throughout history. So Archimedes with buoyancy, does it float, bruh? I put it on the screen way back when. But it produces the concept of equilibrium, right? What is buoyancy? What is flotation? What is suspension in the context of equilibrium? Balance, right? Suspension is kind of like balanced. But sensorality, or what is the equilibrium to moderation? Equilibrium is dynamic, balance equilibrates. Sensorality equilibrates. Sensorality is equilibrality. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is equality to equilibrium? What is equilibrium to momentum? Emphasizing the again, you literally say when you don't know what you're saying. Y is emphasizing the linguistic structure. We have these independent, discrete, irreducible syllables. They get into a certain order or a certain way. They form an irreducible word with meaning. But is not a word, and is what you say fundamentally at the expression sound level of I don't know something. So why is that equilibrium, momentum? Just emphasizing. Sensorality is equilibrium momentum. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is vibration equilibrium? Right? Vibration is not movement. Is equilibrium moving? Fundamental theorem of physics, vibration has no momentum. Momentum is not vibration. Natural definition, direct iteration, mass times velocity. Vibration has no velocity. It has no momentum. It is not movement. What is vacation to vibration? Emphasizing like removal, not going to Cancun. Sensorality shakes out. Vibration shakes. Sensorality is shakeability. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is reaction to vacation? Sensorality is vacation vibes. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is preservation. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is proportionality to property? Again, properties are preserved with scaling. Proportionality contains the properties. Proportions are preserved. Proportionality kind of contains conceptually what preservate, like if it's proportional, it's preserving stuff. Sensorality is a portion of property. Sensorality is a property of reality. Natural definition, direct iteration, charge, spin, so on and so forth. Sensorality is a version of reality. Like my side of the story, your side of the story. Now remove the space. Censorship is a version of reality. Sensorality averses. Like aversion, but the verb, averses. What is aversion to sensation? Sensorality senses aversion. Favoriting likes, aversing dislikes. Right? Sensorality dislikes aversion. Sensorality likes liability, direct iteration, right? Like, lie, direct iteration. What is a lie to a like? Just adding a K. Sensorality likes to lie, direct iteration. Is lying addicting? Addiction, audition. Sensorality is an audition. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is an audition to a rendition? What is rendition to composition? What is composition to competition? What is petition to position? What is closure to dependence? Again, nothing is touching, everything is connected, there are no closed systems, right? If we're all connected, we're all, dependent, right? Just emphasizing that, right? You have sufficiency, we've covered that, where it's like on my direct personal verbiage, every time I say, I'm independent from this. I don't say, well, actually, we're all connected and it's just sufficient, or like the momentum doesn't affect your ability to do something, right? Like I'm connected to my light, but it's not going to stop me from moving. Like I don't point that out. Like I function on the same normalcy everybody else does in terms of rigorous mathematics or just casual conversation. But what is closure to dependence? Without closure, everything is dependent. Everything is connected. Consent once is need consensual. What is consensuality to consensuality? Emphasizing again, just consent, it's that iteration. It's the same exact word, but it felt like bringing this back up. But again, consensual is spelled with an S, but just consent is spelled with a T, and then just expanding that. Sensorality is consensuality. Again, just working through our definition, no independent step is that important. Our overall conceptualization gets in the right place, the linguistics will be trivial. My rights continue to be profoundly and extensively violated. I know I say it in every video. I just don't know how people are out there treating me like lower than dirt. Man, I've never had quality of life. I've never felt safe. I've never been able to afford food. I've never been able to afford health care. I have never had any quality of life. And I continue to beg every single day. I continue to seek asylum every single day to my estate. Do not let any American ever benefit from my work, because it's my direct personal realization, and not one person will give me a little bit of money to be treated with dignity and respect. Is this the most disgusting thing every single day? I wake up to it every single day. Nobody cares every single day. This is society is a disgusting joke every single day. And it's all fraud. It is all racketeering. It is all conspiracy. It is all done in an organized fashion. It is all done with armed, literally the government. I mean, it's like, that's like, I am kidnapped in my own home. I'm restricted from my own property. I can't take care of my health. And I am very literally begging for some mercy, for some dignity, for some integrity, for something. Nobody cares. My rights continue to be violated to my estate. Again, do not let, I just want, if I'm not alive to live any moment of my day, I want all of my work destroyed completely and entirely. I will keep putting out work until if I do get paid in my lifetime, which I have zero expectation that will ever occur. All right, the reason I'm literally not sitting out in front of the State House with saying, give me my rights, is to prioritize the completion of sensorality. But you can't speed up this fundamental conceptualization. But again, I am profoundly and extensively T-word. I expect to be D-word. It is directly done by the governor. It is directly done by the president. I live in fear of extortion. I live in fear of swatting. I live in fear of literally everything. There's no major crime besides clearly I'm sitting here, I'm not murdered. There's no major felony that has not been committed against me, that is not currently being committed against me, and that the people doing it, again, they don't even process as what they're doing is could be wrong, let alone directly illegal. Again, because the overall maturity of our species is a bunch of 14-year-old children that were never raised properly, like James Ryan, that were never taught to be educated, like Tim Dune, like my business partner Marty Magid or Robert Hemphill. Just nobody has any values, and I keep using personal names, and I want these people in prison. I mean, they're too illiterate to ever watch these videos, and they won't watch these videos unless I get publicized, and if I get public, well, they'll already be in jail. And so I continue to emphasize my quality of life is zero, and to everybody out there, again, I'm running out of things to say. I have nothing to say. I am being T-word. I expect to be D-word. My life quality is zero. I cannot simply eat properly, sleep properly, and work, and this world is absolutely fucking disgusting. That is what I have for right now. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.